Hello and welcome to West Ham Way. We are joined today by our guests Bill, Jeff, and Charles. How are we doing, lads?
Very well, thank you, Dennis.
Fine, thanks, but could be better though with West Ham's
Yeah,
recent games,
stupid
Well,
question,
well,
Dennis.
which we'll get onto,
I know,
obviously.
I need to understand my audience. I need to understand my audience. I mean, it's been really frustrating the last couple of games, and it's what a difference a couple of weeks can make. We were all on a high last time we were speaking. Well, not so much on a high, but we were all okay. Respect the point. We're doing well in Europe, but last couple of games have gone our way. So got to ask, lads. There's a lot of questions on Twitter at the minute. Are we Moyes in or Moyes out? Are we overreacting, or do we need to make a change? Bill, come to you first, mate.
I've got splinters, mate, because I'm massively on the fence about this. I mean, obviously, David Moyes did a fantastic job, particularly second time round. But the performances this season haven't been good enough. We lost 8 league games. That's a heck of a lot from what, 14 games, is it? So, and there has been a lot of money spent, and we've got our best squad for some time, and unfortunately, at the moment, the results and I think more importantly, the performances just haven't been there. I'm struggling to remember the last game we actually played really well in. Even the games we've won in the league, we've scraped over the line. Haven't played that great. We've played well in the Conference League, but I mean, the standard of the teams we played was really, really poor. So I wouldn't read too much into that. But just over the calendar year as well, there's obviously we've struggled at times, and but I think Moyes has got a lot of credit in the bank, but the way we're playing at the moment, it's the jury's massively out, as you can see from not only on social media but in the stands as well. Obviously, like with the reaction to, which we'll come on to, like substitutions against Palace. So I think unfortunately the tide is turning, but Moyes got to get results and start with Leicester on Saturday.
Yeah, it's when you look at the results over, I mean, in a calendar year, it does not look great. I think we've picked up, I think it's 13 wins in the league since the turn of the new year, and 4 of them are against teams that are no longer in the Premier League. Charles, obviously, you've been at the same games as myself. Is there are your feelings any different to Bill? Are you a bit more, or are you also sitting on the fence?
Yeah, I'm not too dissimilar from Bill, to be honest. I would say at the moment I'm still Moyes in. I'm in that camp, but patience is wearing very thin, and I think a loss on Sunday could be catastrophic for him heading into the World Cup. Um, the trouble is, it's just bad all round at the moment. It's bad from the players. It's bad from the management. The tactics have been really poor. I think one of the biggest concerns is, our sort of our seemingly kind of woeful attacking against these teams where we've signed Scamacca and Paqueta over the summer. 2 of the top attackers in Europe, or 2 of the best sort of attackers you could get on the market, and we haven't really utilised them. I mean, Paqueta, I think we haven't seen like too much of him. I mean, we've seen enough of him to kind of know that he's good enough, but obviously it takes a while for people to catch up with Moyes ball. And then Scamacca, I think, is quality, but I just don't think the system works for him. It's suited to a player like Antonio, who's a bit more sort of a bit more sort of fiery and like kind of he flames out. He doesn't have that stamina that Scamacca has, or that kind of that composure or agility. He's a bit more sort of head down, headstrong, go for it, and counter attack. And I think that's why the counter attacking worked really well last season. But I think the tactics have been really poor. The game management over the last 2 games has been absolutely atrocious. I mean, we'll get on, I suppose, to last night's result later on. But for some reason, to make us weaker at the back when we were in a dominant phase of the game, I just don't really get. We just sort of allowed them to come back at us, and obviously that overlap on the left wing just screwed Ben. Well, I mean, Ben Johnson could have done better, but I'm not going to lie, he didn't have a lot of help around him to help with it, to cope with it. And then also, I mean, the selections are probably what are getting on everyone's nerves at the moment. I think two names that sort of personify this are Souček, who obviously everyone can see is completely fallen off a cliff in terms of his form, which is sad to see because I think we all love him and love what he's done for us. But he's just not good enough to be starting, especially over someone like Flynn Downs, who's a sort of up and coming prospect for us. And then Benrahma's the other player. I mean, this kind of constant negativity around him that it just seems so unnecessary. And the fact of the matter is he's probably been, bar Rice, probably our best player this season. And is one of the only consistent attacking threats we have in the team at the moment. So I am Moyes in, but Saturday will, I think, give me a clearer idea of which side of the fence I'm going to be on, because he has got a lot of credit in the bank with us, obviously, for what he's done over the last 2 years, but there's only so much time before that credit runs out, and I'm hoping that he does turn it around, and I hope we win on Saturday to give him a little bit of a cushion for the World Cup. But this week has not been good.
I mean, say what you mean, Charles. Say what you mean. Jeff, are you going to get the pitchforks out for Moyes, or are you going to get on your soapbox and defend him here, mate?
Well, I think we're all of us are like somewhere floating in like a grey area, aren't we? Like the fence is right in the middle of the grey area, and then we're all kind of can't really decide. And I'm in the same boat, but I just think like it's inevitable that we're all going to be Moyes out eventually, and then Moyes is going to be gone eventually. I just think at this point it's gone too far. Like, I mean, the run of form that we've had this year is enough to have got some managers sacked 3 times. Probably they'd have got Watford would have gone for 8 managers if it was them. It's an absolute mess, and the problem is at some point you've got to throw it onto the players. And he's obviously now starting to pick Scamacca and Paqueta put his ball straight in a team. He's starting Benrahma, although that it's questionable the way he's treating Benrahma regardless. But I still think he's going to get himself the sack by he's willing to die on the hill of Souček, isn't he? He's literally, he will go to the end with that. It's so obvious that Souček needs to, even if you take him out of the team for a couple of games and then you put him back in, but something's got to be done, but he's not having it and he's not going to. And I just think it seems to be the hill he's prepared to die on, and it's so inevitable that he's going to be gone. So with that in mind, and the World Cup coming up, I guess if I was a decision maker, I'd give him the game on Saturday, and if we lose that, then he'd be gone, and we'd have time to recruit, because it just has to happen at this point in time. He doesn't seem to be showing any willingness to fix the biggest issue in the team. If you've got Declan Rice playing with one arm because he's having to cover for Souček, then we're never going to be successful. It's just, it can't happen. It doesn't matter what else you've got going on the pitch. You can't play with 10 men in this league.
It's the lack of goals, obviously, Jeff, as well. It's 12 league goals. I mean, it's only that Wolves, Nottingham Forest and Everton scored less than us, and we've spent how much money on these fantastic attacking players, but it's the patterns of play all season have been really, really poor. I mean, it personified in the Blackburn game last night, where we're playing in a horseshoe shape. We get fullback, comes back to the middle, back to the other fullback, back. There's no penetration. The passing's too slow. It was a bit better in the second half, but and that's against Blackburn in the Championship, And I was saying earlier, the games we've won this season, we've laboured over them. We haven't played out of our skin in any of the games, and that's
the best period of play I've seen was the last 20 minutes against Man United. I thought we did enough to win the game, didn't we? I thought we were absolutely fantastic, and I come away from that game, although we lost, actually feeling really positive. And then when I look back and I reflect on it, we were crap for 70 minutes. But that last 20 minutes showed me that it can be done. And
same at Anfield as well.
Yeah, if we started every game like that, but left it too little too late, really. I mean, that being said, we did throw the kitchen sink at it, and De Gea really got him out of trouble. But yeah, I just think there's changes that needs to be made that he's not prepared to make. He's made that very clear. He might as well just sit in an interview now and say, I will not be taking Souček out of this team, because that we know that's the case. and in which case we're not going to improve. So yeah, for me, I guess I would say, I suppose Moyes out. Yeah.
Well, I mean, sorry, Dennis, just touching on that, the good passages of play we've had this season. Like you say, Jeff, I pretty much agree with you in the sense that the best sort of 20 minutes we've had is kind of against Liverpool, against these bigger teams. But, I hear everyone saying at the moment that, like, oh, we've just been really unlucky. We've just been really unlucky. Forest, we should have won. United, we should have got a point. Liverpool, we should have got a point, and all this. But even in the games we've won this season, you could argue that we were lucky. Bournemouth and Fulham, off the top of my head, I thought, how the hell have we got 3 points out of that?
Yeah, we weren't worth a win against Fulham. We fluked. I mean, it was a bore draw against Villa, wasn't it?
But that's the thing; it works both ways. Like, you can be lucky against the big teams. That's all. That's all good and well. But the fact that we're being lucky against people like Bournemouth and Fulham have had a good season, granted. But Bournemouth, we should be with that team completely, turning over. And we're just not. And I agree with Bill. I think we're just not creating enough. We're not giving our, and we're not being good in front of goal either. But it all stems from that negative, those negative tactics. I mean, if we are playing counter-attacking football, there's been no sign that our counter-attacking football has been, or our plan has been to win the ball back, sit deep, win the ball back, and then bam, up you go the field. Bowen, Benrahma, Antonio just absolutely pacing it into the final third and, getting a shot away or whatever. But there's honestly that transition from midfield. And like you say, mostly because of Souček, that transition from midfield
it's laboured
up to the forward three
sluggish.
Is just diabolically slow at the moment.
Yeah.
And like you say, that's got to change. Otherwise, we're not going to be improving our goal rate.
What do you think, Dennis?
Well, thank you. I mean, the one thing I was talking about earlier with someone was it's actually quite a ridiculous time for people to say things such as, and that's not this isn't what Jeff said. This is what I've been seeing is, oh, if we lose against Leicester, then questions will be asked of Moyes and questions about his future. Okay, you then got near enough 2 months or a month and a half, nearly 2 months till the next game. So how long are these questions going to last? What's he going to be able to do in that time to convince the board that he's the right man for the job? Either they've got to have an idea now, or they've got to be saying, we'll assess it after, in the performances after the World Cup. There's all these reports coming out. Goes, oh, if he loses, then he's on thin ice. Then what happens? All of our stars get injured at the World Cup. He's not going to be winning the next couple of games before the transfer window. It's lazy journalism, in my honest opinion. People coming out saying that. The ultimate thing for me really is whether we're Moyes in or Moyes out is kind of irrelevant. It is, well, if Moyes goes, who comes in? There are some people that genuinely believe that Pochettino or Tuchel would take us over. I don't think they would. Tuchel may have wanted to stay in London, but look at the teams he's managed. Not since Mainz has he been at a club that isn't an established, team with pedigree, winning league titles and won Champions League, with the exception of PSG winning Champions Leagues. I can't see him coming to a club like us. Pochettino, forget about it. Some people suggesting Scott Parker. Bournemouth fans were glad Scott Parker went and he got him promoted because he was just.
I'd rather keep Moyes than have Scott Parker.
Yeah. And there's some people may not be on this call saying that we should get Di Canio in charge.
Yeah, I think that was tongue in cheek. I think that was tongue in cheek, Dennis.
No, I know that comment was tongue in cheek.
Sounds like a smart move to me.
Yeah. So that comment was tongue in cheek. So people being Moyes out. Well, what would you do with during a World Cup hiring a manager when he's not going to have half his players around? I don't think it's a smart move at all, no matter. But I do think with Moyes, it is a case of what Jeff said. The cracks are beginning to show. Some people said, whether you agreed with the Benrahma being subbed or not, that his comments on Benrahma was his Sam Allardyce cup in the ears against Hull. That's the moment where, okay, you've really put your neck out there now. Now you have to get it right. You have to succeed, because the next time you fail, everyone's going to be cupping the ears back. And next week, we went out and lost after we cupped the ears against Hull. And that was the beginning of the end for Allies. Got bought a bit of time when we had that miraculous little run at the beginning of the next season. But I think this is the area where Moyes' own hubris is coming against him off the back of the success. And because he acted like this when he first took over and it worked out eventually. I don't think he's going to have the same fortunes at the minute. And also, it goes back to something that was said on here a little while ago. Back when he was at Everton, he was always criticised for having his favourites that he wouldn't drop no matter what, and not being able to handle flair players. Andy van der Meijden, who had his off-field problems, Moyes would barely play him and would play him out of position constantly. What's he doing? He's, Paqueta, arguably for Brazil, plays as an 8 alongside a central midfielder, but he starts Soucek and plays for Quetta as a 10. He's playing Fornells or Lanzini as a left wing ahead of Benrahma. It's a bit ridiculous. I do think that it's a matter of time now, rather than not if he'll go, but when. I don't even think it might not even be this season. It might be the beginning of next season. But similar with Bilic at the new stadium, once these questions start getting asked, they rarely survive much longer.
I think. Sorry, Dennis, but I think
Yeah.
On the overlap, Gary Neville's channel, I think Jamie Carragher made a really good point when they spoke about West Ham briefly with Russ from the West Ham network. And it was obviously Moyes was in charge of Everton for quite a while. And Jamie Carragher said, kept him up all that time. And there were times where they'd finished 11th, 12th, and then obviously they got the Champions League one season. But like at that time, I don't remember Everton having a squad, certainly in the attacking sense, as good as what we have at the moment. Because most of their players are more workmanlike, Lee Carsley, Tim Cahill, Stephen Pienaar, those kind of players. And also, I don't think the depth. So I completely agree with what you said, but as I say, I think our squad is in the attacking sense is better, and also the strength and depth of the Premier League is a lot better now. I'd say. Look at Nottingham Forest and more like good, decent clubs, and they're not cut adrift. And you look at the managers as well. Unai Emery's at Aston Villa, and Lopetegui is just taken over the Wolves job. Like do you know what I mean? So it's a lot tougher nowadays.
Yeah, and the only other thing I was going to say was it was sort of straight forwards. Just gonna put this out there, Charles. But says Scamacca's a great forward, doesn't fit the Moyes system. There's a familiar ring to that tune, isn't there, Charles?
What, beginning with H?
Beginning with H, yes. But that's what people were worried about with Scamacca. But similar thing to Haller, where good striker in his own right in other leagues, may or may not make it in the Premier League, but whether he makes it in the Premier League or Premier League standards is irrelevant. Will he be able to fit Moyes' style of play? And again, that goes into, do you sign, you want to sign players that fit the manager's situation, and Scamacca isn't quite being played right, isn't quite working for him. Some of that's down to him and needing to adapt, but there's also parts where, for example, I wouldn't have taken him off against Palace. We'll come on to this later, but I wouldn't have taken him off at half time against Palace. I'd have given him the extra 15 minutes because they were scared of him. But on the subject of Palace, I'd like to move swiftly on to another one where, are we overreacting or not, on Benrahmagate, because this has split the fan base almost as much as Moyes in and Moyes out on Twitter, with people saying, if you look at statistics, he wasn't doing that well, it was right to bring him off. But I was at the game, and at times I thought he was the best player on the pitch. He wasn't doing much on the ball, but when he was making a run, sometimes Palace had 3 men on him. They were scared of him in the first half. Because we went to Bill last time, I'm going to go to Charles first on this one. Charles, do you think this is an overreaction? Do you think Moyes, first of all, take the situation of Palace in its own right in isolation, but also the wider thing, Moyes' treatment of Benrahma over the last couple of years? What are your thoughts on it? Because this has been a long running thing for West Ham.
I think the reaction from the fan base, at least the negative reaction, is very warranted. I think Benrahma, I mean, we go back to 2 years ago now when, I was joking with you because you made a comment about your mate saying, he's a lazy bugger and, he won't run for you and everything like that. And, we've obviously come a long way from that. And I think we know that Benrahma, can be a little bit inconsistent every now and again, but is generally probably our best technical player, and sometimes leaves Premier League defenders, just on skates, Bambi on ice. He's that good. He really is that good. And that able. But Moyes just seems to undermine him at every single turn. I mean, if you look at all of the, press conferences that Moyes has done and Benrahma has been mentioned, there's always like this, there's always this negativity underlying. Like he'll say something like, "Oh yeah, he's done good. He has been really inconsistent and everything like that. And I think that's the key for him and everything. You can't just outright praise him. He has to, get a little dig in there as well." And the most ridiculous thing that really puts it into perspective was an article that I forgot who the article was done by, but it was basically, I think it was actually in a press conference where he was just saying like, "Oh, a lot of the new players that have come in this summer, like Paqueta and Scamacca and all these Aguerd, they've all come in and they've done really well learning the English language. They've done very well. And then he goes on to say, some others who like Benrahma, who's been here for 2 years, he's not quite as good an English speaker. And it's sort of like, it's so unnecessary. It's so unnecessary. And when a lot of people will say, "Oh, the negativity from the fans is really affecting play on the pitch. It's really affecting players' morale." How the hell do you think Benrahma feels when his own manager basically calls him, says he's crap at English, like obviously not verbatim, but he's basically digging him out every time he does something? We saw his reaction to him being substituted by Lanzini over the weekend. We've seen him get frustrated before at Moyes. Pretty much to the point of basically shouting at him as he got subbed off last season. The boy can play. And at the moment, he is our most consistent attacking threat. And I think last night proved it, really. Out of the 3 substitutions that were warming up for the majority of the second half, when we needed a goal, Moyes called on Benrahma because he knows he's probably our most creative and attacking player right now. Who can?
He's probably in line. Sorry, Charles. Probably in line for Hammer of the Year at the moment. If the vote was now.
Yeah, him and Rice are neck and neck in my eyes. But yeah, I think it's just ridiculous. I think whatever weird. I think, like you said, Dennis, like Moisey will have his stubborn ways, and his hubris will be sort of the downfall of him if he can't learn to adapt and to sort of learn from mistakes and to essentially build our attack around Benrahma at the moment, because that's the only way things are going to develop in this team. Then we've got not only a very bad footballing problem, but we've got a very bad morale problem as well. Because there's a lot of characters in there that it seems like Benrahma gets along with, especially like Kurt Zouma, people like that will keep him going. But I mean, only so much that he'll be able to take before he's like, what, sod this. I'm just gonna muck about and hopefully get transferred at the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, he's certainly a very popular player on the terraces. Like the "Oh Syed Benrahma" chant was when we went 1-0 down, and immediately that's what my section of the West Stand started just chanting almost sarcastically at Moyes was "Oh Syed Benrahma." Benrahma being on the pitch wouldn't have stopped that goal, but it's almost a little bit as well of a symbol of the fans that are annoyed with Moyes are using Benrahma a little bit as a symbol of that, I think, as well, like chanting his name to wind up Moyes, similar to the sarcastic applause when he brought on Scamacca against Brighton earlier this season. I mean, Jeff, not 100% sure. I can't remember if you were at the Palace game or not, mate. But what have you making rather than the on-pitch stuff? What do you make of the online sort of reaction to it? Specifically, you seen the videos being shared of Moyes basically saying, "Oh yeah, you're coming on for Benrahma," in front of Benrahma, but not to Benrahma, but to Lanzini. And his body language just being basically, right, okay, great. And Downs doing what can best be described as a gym face from The Office. I mean, what your take on the online reaction to that?
As with 90% of flair players, they're pure confidence players as human beings. That's how they're wired up. And it's just the most basic man management. I don't understand. You would just... Every time he played well, you'd get your arm around him and tell him how well he played. And if he played crap, you wouldn't tell him you were crap or start comparing him to other people. You would give him a little bit of constructive criticism followed by, but we really do believe in you. You're a fantastic player. It's just basic, man. I mean, I'm a manager. I manage a team, but it's not a football team, but I do it the same way. I can see how each of my team members respond to criticism and encouragement. And I treat people differently depending on what I've identified, the way they react to things. And it's very obvious that Benrahma needs an arm around him, and you would get a response from that. And I think if you brought in a new manager that really put some actually put some proper faith in him, and gave him a bit of praise, he would probably be a different player. I mean, he's been brilliant, I think, this season. Really, he's provided an attacking threat that no one else has. But it always feels to me like he's one mistake away from Moyes rolling his eyes and dragging him off. And you can't do that with a flair player. You've just got to let them express themselves. So I just think it's terrible man management, and it just pop that in the section before that we're talking about talking about Moyes, because it's just I don't know. I can't get my head around it. It's not really good enough, and it's just his usual stubbornness we see around certain things. He's good at other stuff, Moyes, of course he is, but certain issues he's just so stubborn, and he'll never ever change. He's never ever going to change the way he is with Benrahma, is he?
But it's also, Jeff, like the way he reacts, like you say, one mistake, and he reacts like he's shot Moyes' mum. You know what I mean?
It's like give the ball away.
Souček gives the ball 10 times. Even Paqueta, I love watching Paqueta, but he arguably has lost the ball numerous times, which he's always fine. He's finding his way out.
Yeah, I respect that he's trying it though, Paqueta. He's trying, and once he gets up to speed, then things he's trying, he'll have a better success rate.
And the players need to get up to Paqueta's speed, Jeff, as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's him, Rice, and Scamacca all on the same wavelength, vision, everything. Mm-hmm. The others are way below that. Mm-hmm. So that needs to improve. Paqueta has given the ball away at times, but I noticed in the Palace game, he started doing it in the final third. That's a bit. If you're going to give the ball away or try and flicks around the corner, do it there, not on the halfway line. So hopefully, obviously, he needs a big game against obviously Leicester. Obviously, him and Maddison will be a huge battle.
Yeah, the subject on the mistake is really, as Jess raised it. I was going to raise it at the end, but there was two fantastic moments that sum it up against Palace. The same, but literally what you've described happened in both Palace and against Blackburn. Benrahma comes on, does well. Benrahma, then there's one bit where they were all doing the triangle passing with Emerson, Benrahma, and I believe someone, and Benrahma's the one that passes it. The person doesn't make the run, and it goes out of play for a throw in. Rather than having a go at, I think, Emerson for not making the run, Moyes starts bollocking Benrahma. But Emerson didn't make the run. Why are you not having a go at the person? If he made that run, he'd have been down on the left in the counter. But no, he bollocks Benrahma for kicking out of play.
I just don't see the upside, Dennis. I don't know what Moyes is trying to achieve with
it. Want him.
I don't see the point.
It stinks of it. He didn't want him. He wanted Eze. Yeah. He didn't want Benrahma, and he resents him, and it stinks of it.
Yeah. And the other thing, against Palace, something similar happened. And Rebecca, I'll go to the football with, came up with the best analogy. It's literally that Gordon Ramsay meme where it's like, Fornells gives away on the halfway line and Palace are on the counter. Oh, you poor little darling. Benrahma doesn't score a goal from 40 yards out. You bleeping donkey! Like, that is literally Moyes' management.
Well, idiot sandwich.
Yeah, you're an idiot sandwich, Benrahma.
Dennis,
what
to
are
be
you?
fair,
a substitute sandwich.
Benrahma could have definitely put that screamer a bit more in the corner.
Yeah.
You know,
a bit more on the postage stamp, eh?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a bit too central for my liking.
He should have gone. He should have gone.
Not a great goal.
He should have gone around the other defender as well to get a cleaner shot on goal, like Mickey tried to and went down. Bill, is there anything are you going to come down the other side? Is there anything you can say in defence of Moyes in this sort of treatment?
No, because I don't see the upside. I don't know what he's trying to achieve. And obviously, we've seen it with Benrahma's had a go at Moyes. We saw it last season. He clearly doesn't want to be managed that way. So you've got to get, as Jeff said, you've got to get the best out of people in different ways. And I know Benrahma's played well this season, but still though, I mean, confidence could literally flip the other way, and he might not want the ball and might play in his shell, but which should be. I mean, we're playing badly as it is, so it'd be even worse, obviously, if that happens. So I just don't. There's no upside. I think it's pointless, especially from such an experienced manager as well. I just don't understand it.
It will make a good Under the Cosh podcast in 15 years' time, when his English gets better, of course, because his English is so bad, according to Moyes. I mean, the thing that started this, I think Charles will remember, the worst watch along we ever did of that Brighton game that was horrific, that ended 2-2. And just before Souček equalised, Benrahma was going to come on for like 4 minutes, like Moyes' favourite thing. Bring it on for 4 minutes, he'll do something. And as soon as we equalised, he literally shoved him one arm and told him to get back on the bench. Like, shoved him away. And that was the bit where we were like, he doesn't like him, does he? So that's what it starts.
The roles were reversed last night. Souček was the one getting shoved back after Blackburn equalised.
Yeah. Sit down, have some more potato salad. Don't worry, we'll give you 90 minutes at the weekend against Leicester. On the other notes, we talked about substitutes a bit there. That brings us on to the next subject. Caveat, just one of my favourite Who songs is Substitute. We're going to talk about substitutes. The substitutions, in my opinion, have been absolutely diabolical and nonsensical, both the timings and the personnel. I just want to take your guys' thoughts on it. I mean, we'll start with you, Jeff. I know you mentioned obviously you weren't at the Palace game, but for example, some of the substitutes, such as if a player hasn't scored, striker hasn't scored, hook them at half time for the other one, or for example, or hooking Scamacca early against Man United. Admittedly, Mickey did all right towards the end. I mean, what do you make of it? Because dithering Dave in the transfer market and substitutions were always his two biggest criticisms, even going back to his early Everton days. I mean, is there any substitutions you agree with or disagree with?
Well, he's flipped back. He's flipped the other way now, where he's making substitutions sometimes alarmingly early, but he's making subs in the game. But they just always feel a bit strange when it goes back to what we've already been talking about. When you've got clear underperformers in the team on the pitch, and then he just leaves them on there. I find it really baffling. I don't see the harm in playing Scamacca and Antonio together when you really need a goal. Why not? Especially if you're going to hook Benrahma, then why would you not play with two strikers when you're losing a game 1-0? He does seem to have a weakness in the area of substitutions, and it's weird because last season the weakness was he didn't make any, and this season he's making loads of them erratically. So it's strange decision making, and I feel almost like a bit awkward going in on it too much because he's a football manager who paid loads of money to do it, and I'm not. So he must know something I don't. But a lot of the time I'm watching West Ham recently and just scratching my head and thinking, what's going on? And then I'm looking at his backroom staff, who are like real good, knowledgeable people, and none of them are saying anything. And I'm thinking, I can't get my head around it. I'm a bit more confused. I haven't really got a lot more than that, Dennis.
Yeah, I mean, all of the Palace substitutions, literally the reaction was like, when Antonio came on, it was a bit like, oh, all right, Mickey's coming on, he'll run at them. But I remember myself, I said to the person to my left and said to him, it's too early because you use that technique when people are knackered. And at first half, he didn't do an awful lot, but there was one passage of play that was perfect, where if it weren't for some great defending from my favourite defender that doesn't play for West Ham, Anderson,
yeah,
did a brilliant block when Scamacca got the ball over the shoulder, first touch, absolutely took their fullback out of the game, and they were panicked. Like everyone was sprinting back, and Scamacca and Benrahma, they were terrified of. Mickey came on. They know the animal. They know what animal you're coming up against. Mickey, like Brighton nullified him. I was like, give Scamacca 10, 15 more minutes second half to link up with Paqueta, link up with Benrahma, and see what happens before changing it. I mean, Bill, Charles, you were both at the game. I mean, we'll go to Bill because you were laughing at first. I mean, like example, last night's substitutions as well. I mean, I feel we were a little bit top heavy towards the end. I think I would have brought on Souček or equivalent a little bit earlier on to contend with Barrett and Diaz. I mean, what do you make of the subs that happened last night?
Yeah, well, I would have took 4 nails off. Destroy, he was our best player last night. I don't know whether it's to save him for Saturday. I think that I just would have took him off anyway. He played really well, deserved the equaliser. He was our best player on the night. But yeah, I just think it just goes back to the Palace game. Dennis, I think that's just summed it up, just how poor the subs were, but also I think the selections from the start as well have been really puzzling. I mean, this idea of having Antonio and Scamacca up front is a good one, I think, but in the right way though, especially at the London Stadium, I wouldn't necessarily play them two as a pair because it's a wide pitch, we're exposed in midfield, blah blah blah. But I'd have it where like Scamacca up front, Antonio maybe off the left or off the right, and then Bowen and then Benrahma the other side. Because I think I love Bowen, but he's not been in great form this season. He's not wasn't included in the England World Cup squad, and rightly so, he hasn't been in great form. Just try something different, and like we've talked about Souček, but like play Downs alongside Rice. Instead Downs in like a weird number 10, 8 sort of thing. Like that does a lot, mate. It doesn't have that suits Flynn's game at all. He's not dynamic enough in that position. No. So just little. So the subs need to wear, but also I think he's doing it because he's made mistakes in his starting 11 and formations. So it's all needs work on.
Yeah, I mean, I said go back to the Palace game, but the other subs, so I forgot to say so, were met with boos. Like there was wall-to-wall boos when Benrahma's board came up, followed by a full 60 seconds of "Oh, Syed Benrahma" to prove the point that we weren't booing Benrahma off, we were booing the sub one. And again, majority of West Ham fans love Lanzini, but he's not a left winger. It hasn't
been for the past 3 seasons since his injury.
Yeah. Makes not one bit of sense, and he's been seeing him on the training pitch, and he must know that Lanzini's ineffective on the left wing. I mean, Charles, are you gonna, for example, I always like to see the other side of the coin. Are we going to see some defense of the substitutions there, or would you rather see a different formation? Maybe Craig Dawson up front as a false 9. Charles reveals himself to be West Ham clips. I mean, what do you make of the subs recently? Because again, we're baffled.
Absolutely astounding. I mean, Lanzini on the wing, bloody hell. Absolute genius move, Moyes. Absolute genius move. I mean, what's next? Ogbonna up front, like, especially after last night, bloody hell. I mean, look, I was nodding tight. I was nodding like an absolute tired git there because it's just like you boys have covered it all. Like, I think that's what's so tiring about it, though. It's just so obvious these substitutions, and we sort of get used to the fact that Moyes is used to making his changes late and everything like that, and that could be frustrating in its own right, but we're used to that, and like it's just ridiculous. I mean, like you were saying, Bill, like we're handicapping ourselves straight from the off by not putting our best lineup out, and the fact that the fact that he took Souček off at I think like 50 at the same time as Benrahma, but like 55th minute or something, just proves like he's thinking to himself, "Oh shit, I shouldn't have started him. I should have started Downs in the first place." But
But that's only so he's got something in the tank so he can play 90 minutes on Saturday.
But that's the thing. Last night, I was saying to Bill. Well, firstly, I was saying to Bill and JP at half time. I was saying, look, it's a good time. Because Scamacca is getting absolutely bombarded by Gay and Anderson. This is a good time to actually bring on Antonio to support Scamacca, and we haven't been fruitful in attack. So I don't mind if we brought Antonio on for Paqueta because Paqueta's just come back from injury. He was looking a little bit shaken that first half. He played better in the second half, but so I was like, you know what? Go for the 2, draw the centre backs away from one another, and we might be able to create some opportunities. Obviously, that doesn't happen. And then before the team came out yesterday, I was like, you know what? As much as Souček has been woeful these last few games, I don't mind him starting. I don't mind him starting yesterday because that's a good game for him to sort of get a bit of confidence back, and then he can earn his way back into that team and earn his confidence back. And I think he wants that because just like you're doing with Harry Maguire for England or for United, like you're doing them no benefit by keep on starting them and hoping that there'll be a different result. Oh, he'll be better. Southgate today saying Maguire, oh yeah, he's our best centre-back. Yeah, he was our best centre-back in 2018 in the last World Cup, but a lot has changed since then. And, we've just got to adapt. We've got to adapt. And Moyes has got to adapt. Otherwise, it could result in his demise from West Ham, that is.
I mean, say what you mean, Charles. I mean, don't hold back.
Honestly, I tell you what, I've never been so
Charles off his long run.
I've never been so frustrated
I also really appreciate you clearing up that you meant his demise from West Ham and not from dying.
Jeff and Bill have been so like composed and almost journalistic in the way they. I'm just too emotional, to be honest, to even be on here today.
All right, Goldridge. There we are. But also, I mean, we're talking about the selection and frustration. Lee Judges, there. That's a better one. Section. Well, let's look at centre backs. I mean, for example, for their first one, Craig Dawson. Love Craig Dawson. He only costs $2 million. He's awesome, as the song goes. But he absolutely pelted it at Kerrer, who couldn't do an awful lot about that. Having looked at it at the time, we were all blaming Kerrer. But is it time to start Aguerd? Because he was solid in the Europa League last night. Brilliant ball for Mickey's goal, but bit sloppy at the back to begin with. I mean, that's against the Championship side. So I just want to hear whether you guys feel that he's ready to start, and would you start him against Leicester ahead of the World Cup? Again, going around the round robin, we go to Bill first on that one.
Yeah, I mean, he probably ain't ready, but but in the time of need, I would start him. I think in the 2 Conference League games, okay, limited opposition, he looked decent, and he shows he hasn't lost his pace. Lightning quick he is. Obviously good in the air, good left foot. He made that bad mistake against Blackburn, which should have led to a goal. But apart from that, I think he defended really well. And I would start him against Leicester. He offers something different to our back line, which is quite paceless, I have to say. Zuma, when he's fully fit, he's pretty quick, but Aguerd leaves him in the shade as well. So I would, in the time of need, I would start Aguerd. Yeah.
There we are. Unmute myself. There we are. Charles, would you be starting Aguerd Saturday alongside the one of Zuma or Dawson?
Yeah, I would. I mean, like you said, Dennis, I love Dawson to bits. I mean, he's a cult hero for us, without a doubt. He was at fault for that goal. I know people like to dig Aguerd out and dig Kerrer out, and he's by no means consistent. But yeah, it was his pass that caused that goal. He also did make an incredible last-ditch challenge on Zaha in the second half, to be fair, which sort of made up for it, but we ended up losing anyway, so it don't really matter. But yeah, I think Aguerd does need to come in. He was a bit uncharacteristically shaky, I would say, last night. It's almost like I don't know what happened. Really, it was just a bad back pass, and luckily he got away with it. But
did well after that, though, didn't he?
Yeah, no, he did. He did. Oh, that block off the line, it was just incredible. But yeah, I think one of the biggest assets, like you say, the pace at the back definitely is a need improvement. And also just that it's nice to have that right-footed, left-footed combination, which we haven't really synced up with over the last sort of couple of seasons. So it'll be nice to have Zuma back on the right as a right-footed player and Aguerd over on the left. I think it all just makes sense, and he seems fit enough. So I would go ahead and take a punt and play him, and hopefully have a decent, like, because Dawson he plays so well in the bloody Europa games. Like, save him for those, and if there are injuries in the Premier League team, I think that's the best way to utilise Dawson. He's still very serviceable, but I think Aguerd needs to be starting.
Jeff, know you're a big mark for Craig Dawson. Always have been. I like some of us that doubted him to begin with and have lived to regret it and have to rewrite their own history. But Jeff, fair. You backed him from the start. We'll give you credit on that.
I backed him for 2 million. I backed him for 2 million.
Well, loan then 2 million. But so where would you start? Because obviously, Aguerd's the ball playing defender, but in Leicester's a must win. Would you risk a player making his Premier League debut that's played less than 280 minutes or 260 minutes of football, because he got subbed off in the first Europa game he played? Would you risk him, or would you stick with what we've got at the minute?
I wouldn't start him against Leicester, no, and that's because we've got the World Cup coming. I don't see the benefit in him playing 2 games in 1 week on his way back from injury, only to then have and then have a month and a half or whatever it works out at off from.
No, he'll be at the World Cup.
I know he's going to the World Cup, but I mean, playing in our system.
Yeah. All right.
I would see us through to the World Cup with what we've got. He's there on the bench if we have any issues. Zuma's hobbling about constantly anyway, so I can't tell if he's fit or not. But no, I would get us through to the World Cup as we are. I'm happy with Dawson and Zuma, but going forwards, straight after the World Cup, I'd get Aguerd up to match speed at an elite level at the World Cup and then bring him into our side for the first game back. And I think going forward, Zuma and Aguerd would be our starting pair. But I'm really happy with the 4 centre-halves that we've got. I think it's the best combination of 4 we've ever had in my time. So I think that's one area where I'm actually really happy with how things are going. But yeah, Saturday, Dawson, Zuma, they're rocking and rolling. I'd stick with that until and get us to the World Cup.
So what you're saying, Jeff, is you're hoping Morocco make it to the final because that way Aguerd's got the maximum amount of game time at elite level. So you want a Morocco-England final, basically.
Just as long as he doesn't hurt himself at the World Cup, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
I'll put a fiver on that.
Yeah, I'm on again similar thing. I'm on the fence with it because it's like the ball he played up to Bowen to knock it back to Mickey for his goal. Those are the type of crossfield balls we need up to Bowen to get on the end of over the shoulder of the last defender. That's his bread and butter. And if he can do that, that could be a difference maker in a game like Leicester. And we would need his pace to combat Vardy, whereas Dawson ain't quick and Zuma is normally hobbling after his first header when he goes down on a knee. I mean, it could left field argument to start Aguerd ahead of Zuma because of that, and have him be the quick one, have Dawson be the stopper, no nonsense. Just tell Dawson don't blast it towards your fullbacks. Could be an argument. There's also the Ogfather that we haven't spoken about that could possibly start. But I have trepidation about starting a player in what is unnecessarily, in my opinion, a very high risk game for us where in my opinion, we got to get 3 points on the board because, on to our next subject very swiftly there. This World Cup break, is it coming at the right time for us? How much of a benefit can be for us, but also could it be negative? We have a lot of stars going to the World Cup, could pick up injuries, and other teams could also be reinvented, following the World Cup. I mean, Charles, coming to you first on this one. I mean, what are your thoughts on there being this World Cup break now until Boxing Day?
Well, I mean, firstly, there shouldn't be a World Cup in the winter. I mean, that's simple enough. I mean, the fact that we're doing this is an absolute absurdity. But in a way, it is kind of good for us right now. I mean, I think we'd be fuming if we were on a roll with results and everything like that, and then we'd have to go into a World Cup. So I think it is. I think it's probably good that the players, especially someone like Bowen, who obviously missed out on the squad today, and just hasn't been firing this season as well as he did last season. I think it's quite good for people like him, people like Souček, people who are just sort of not at their game, even someone like Ben Johnson, people who are underperforming, that just to get a little bit more perspective, kind of do a little bit more sort of soul searching, but also a bit of research into what's going wrong for them and to work with the coaching team to try and work out those sort of errors. And yeah, I think to be honest, it is probably quite good for us in the way we're going right now. But having said that, Saturday is still a must win. Saturday is must win. A draw won't satisfy the fans, and we'll keep on in our minds having to say, oh well, we had a shit week to finish the World Cup off with that loss to Palace and the getting knocked out in the cup to Blackburn. And a loss would obviously just be another nail in the coffin, really, for people wanting Moyes out, and you can't really blame them. So we need to win before the World Cup on Saturday. I think that's integral. And then after that, we can sort of, hopefully people, even Moyes can hopefully take that time just to kind of go, what is not working? Am I being too stubborn? he can go through the games and sort of figure out where things are going wrong, and we can come back and, you know, sort of almost like what happened with COVID when we sort of came, you know, that break. It was a bit annoying because we were on a little bit of a uphill. Our form was going up a little bit, but you know, after the first couple of games, we were roaring again. So. Yeah, I think the World Cup has come at a good time for us. Like I said, though, there shouldn't be a bloody World Cup in the winter.
Well, we all know why. You know, there's a FIFA documentary that came out at time recording today. It is Thursday, which explains exactly why World Cup went to Qatar. I mean, Jeff, what do you make of it? Because you know, what risks are there to the players that are going out there? Because we've got Rice for England, we've got Aguerd for Morocco, Kera for Germany, Areola's in the France squad, but is barely going to play, and you've got Paqueta for Brazil. I don't know if Lanzini is in the Argentina squad, and I don't think Zuma's made the French squad. And you know, so we're only having a few players, but they are key players that are going out to the World Cup.
Squad?
I don't think he is. I don't think
he's been in and around it, hasn't he? He's been in and around it for them.
Yeah, a bit in and around it. But you know, there's only a few players of us going, and some of them might be going home quite early. But how much of a risk are you feeling with the players we've got going out there, coming back with an injury?
I try not to really think about it because what it will be at this point. Every time one of our players goes off to England duty, it gives me PTSD with Dean Ashton, and so I do worry about it, but I try not to give it any thought really, because you can't affect it, and ultimately you do want our players to achieve their full potential and everything they want out of their careers. So I'm happy for the guys that are going, but it always makes me nervous. You know, Mickey going off to play for Jamaica absolutely kills me. Thinking about, you know, what could happen to him when he's on international duty, but it is what it is. I think it's the irony about the World Cup. It's if we win on Saturday, the World Cup's coming at a terrible time. But if we lose on Saturday, it's ideal, isn't it? Because I think that will be the end of Moyes if we lose on Saturday. Because of the timing of the World Cup, gives us time to get him out, get a new manager in without too much disturbance to our fixture calendar, you know. And a new manager's got time to come in, get settled, create some systems, get to know his players over time, and prepare for the fixture list at the end of December and early January. So I think, yeah, depending on the result on Saturday, it's either going to be great timing or absolutely terrible timing.
Yeah, I mean, and the other factor you mentioned about Mickey, you know, I don't know if Jamaica's going to have any internationals during the World Cup. I don't think there are any internationals allowed during a World Cup. I could be wrong. But apart from a few friendlies for the players that are going to be still at home, is the concern, like, for example, a concern I've got, and I don't know, going to come to Bill on this, is that the players that don't go to the World Cup treat it as a summer holiday or winter holiday. Are they still going to be coming to, you know, training every day? Will they be doing the same intensity? I mean, that's the main concern I have about this World Cup break. Just want to hear, Bill, your thoughts on it.
Yeah, well, I mean, as Charles said, it's just ridiculous that we've got a World Cup at this time. Qatar should never been awarded it. Sepp Blatter said that recently. Well, it's 12 years too late, Sepp. I'm sorry, you were president at the time, so. Yeah, well, I think it's going to be obviously unique for all the European nations. Yeah, I think there'll obviously be some high intensity training, but then some sort of like mini pre-season friendlies, and then the players come back for Boxing Day. So, but I think, yeah, as Jeff said, I think whether it's a good time for us depends on the result. If we beat Leicester, we play really well, best performance of the season, that kind of game, we're like, come on, let's have another game in a few days' time. Let's get another. Let's just get 2-3 wins in a row. But if we have an absolute shit show like we did against Palace and get hammered by Leicester, which a month ago you wouldn't have thought so, but they've picked up form, and you know, and we lose, you'd be like, oh, thank fuck the World Cup's now. So, yeah, as Jeff said, I think it depends entirely on the result.
we'll all be laughing when England win the World Cup and beat Morocco in the final. Declan Rice with the goal, and he celebrates in front of Jordan Henderson. So I mean, we've mentioned the Palace game quite a bit, so we're going to move on to normally the fun little closer, but not so much fun this one. And we'll start with Jeff.
Cheers, Dennis. Because as if we
Yeah.
weren't already depressed enough this week, we need to relive past trauma as well. Appreciate that.
All part of being a West Ham fan, Charles. You should know this by now.
Think of this as therapy, Charles. Jeff, what is your most devastating last gasp defeat?
Well, I really didn't enjoy Lingard coming on for Man United after a cracking display, like really working hard and trying to grind out a draw, only for him to come on and score the winner. Didn't enjoy that one at all. And the other one that we touched on, we spoke about earlier, that sticks out for me was in the final dying embers of a game, Sanchez just rolling the ball to Traore, who steamed through and scored. That was incredibly frustrating in what was already a very frustrating season. We'd signed a lot of players for lots of money and just didn't know how to use them. It was very similar to how we are now. And you just thought, that one particularly, we're already having a tough time, mate, without you doing that. So they're the two that jumped to my mind. But as we've learnt on this channel over the years, I don't have the best of memories. But they're there.
I mean, I remember exactly the United game at home. I was with one of my best mates who's a United fan, and like he said to me, like he goes, "Oh well, I think it'd be nice, if Lingard scores against you, gets like a fourth or a fifth. It'd be nice for your fans to applaud and say thank you, acting like they were going to steamroll us." So yeah, that was another excruciating experience watching West Ham and United. I mean, Charles, what's your most devastating last minute defeat?
Yeah, similar to Jeff, my memory's not the best because there's probably been hundreds over the years that I've been a West Ham fan. But I'm going to go for last season again, and it was the Brentford game. It was tough because obviously we got the equaliser, we were 1-0 down, and then played much better in the second half. Got quite a late equaliser in the 80th minute with Bowen. Who actually missed a glorious chance to put us 2-1 up or to basically get the game for us. I think he headed wide from basically just all he needed to do was prod it in with his head.
I think it was Mickey. I think that was Mickey.
Can't remember, but either way, 94th minute. I forgot what his name is. Wisser.
I know
sends the Brentford fans into absolute raptures, and I mean that's the funny thing is that Palace was devastating, but like I almost didn't it didn't faze me. We didn't deserve anything out of that game. Whereas I thought Brentford, that sort of game we should be winning, and it looked like we were going to win it for those last 10 minutes. But yeah, that was pretty devastating. But yeah, I'm sure there's plenty of trauma that you and Bill will be able to take us through.
I've got 4. Don't worry, Bill. Take your pick, mate.
I thought you'd have about 400, Dennis. Yeah, well, that's the thing. We've had a West Ham fan. There's a load of examples for this. One that was actually earlier this season was the Chelsea away game, I think. I haven't been there. We played really well second half. Took the lead with Antonio. They got a really good equaliser from Ben Chilwell. And then we thought Cornet, he come on, did really well. We thought we got a goal, perfectly good goal. And then that farcical VAR decision, Mendy was apparently found by Bowen. Still ridiculous to this day why that was given. And then Havertz scores near the end, so that was really gutting. And then one in the first season at the London Stadium, it was away at Tottenham, White Hart Lane. Tottenham were going really well under Mauricio Pochettino at the time. Yeah. We were struggling first season under Slaven Bilic at the London Stadium, and somehow we're 2-1 up, and then. We conspired to concede 2 in a minute. Harry Kane scoring the penalty last minute. I think Norvite made the foul, or he was at fault, and we lose 3-2. So that was gutting.
Yeah, that mistake from Nordvite was the inspiration for that video filmed on my potato phone. Like, because that was, I think, his first appearance since then. It was like, "I'll get ready. He's about to do something stupid. We're 1-0 up."
Okay,
He's brought Nordvite on with 2 minutes to go. Good idea. I've got a few, like so one. I'm going to go back in chronological order, like from the most recent to the oldest. So 12-13 season, Gareth Bale's last minute winner, 3-2, surrounded by people that were either supporting Tottenham to try and wire me up or genuine Spurs fans at uni, and I was just sat in silence for about 10 minutes. Well, my mates were like, "I've never seen you this quiet." I was like, "Nah, I'm really, really done, because we had outplayed them. Jaskalainen had kept us in it for like virtually all the second half. They hammered us. Sigurdsson squeezed one past them. I thought, all right, a point is better because we were in free fall at that point after a decent start. We had a really tough time in January. That was bad. And then the Great Escape season, Paul Scalteri in the last seconds when we pushed and pushed and pushed to try and get a second last minute late winner because we thought Zamora had given us a win with about 3-4 minutes to go before Berbatov put in an amazing free kick. And then going, oh no, I skipped one, sorry. And in the middle of that, Cardiff opening day of the season in the Championship, compounded because there was one of the most annoying people at my university was this oily Cardiff fan that had grown up in Telford but somehow still supported Cardiff because he was born there. And he was just the muggiest of the mugs. Like, he was just one of the most annoying. During the playoffs, he was still talking about it. When we beat them in the playoffs, he was still talking about the opening day win when I think Kenny Miller scored in the last second. And then they're going way back, and Bill will remember this one, hopefully. Year we went down after Roda, we had a game which was set for a goalless draw against Southampton. We had hammered them. I think Schemmel had hit the post or something like that. And James Beattie, diving header, 91st minute, goes straight through David James's hands. And it was like, how have we lost this game? And like, I remember we had paid for it on I think it was on Premiership Plus back in the day. My dad had paid out what
a throwback that is.
Yeah, and like my dad was like saying to me, like I was only 11, and my dad then was like saying to have and he goes, I think you might be in trouble this season because he was just like, how have you not won this game? Like Di Canio and Defoe were just always just missing it. Schemmel hit the post from about 3 yards from a corner. Like, it was like, how have we missed? And then they had like 2 shots on goal all game, and one of them was like the 94th minute winner. I think the other funny thing about that is Southampton were late to the game, so I was trying to ask my dad, like, will the game be called off if they don't turn up? Because they were late to the game because of traffic. They actually only arrived at the stadium like 15 minutes before kickoff or something stupid like that. But yeah, those are my 4. There's loads. There are loads, but those are the 4 that specifically, the first one I ever experienced, and then other ones for being Tottenham, and the fact that there was just one Cardiff fan at uni was just for lack of better words, just a knob, really.
Well, we were talking behind the scenes, weren't we, about the Wolves one as well, where Sanchez and Cresswell famously teamed up in terrible footballing terms. Oh, did we say it already?
Jeff said it. Jeff said it. That's right. I mean, if we're going
to be fair, that's worthy of a second mention.
Yeah, if we're going like last minute draws as well, there's one last minute draw that was devastating. Same season play, the Leeds one where it was like how the hell have we let Leeds equalise against us and stuff like that? But there's loads of last minute heartache with West Ham. It's one of our staples. Or not the FA Cup final, Gerrard, for example, that ultimately led to a defeat. So class that as a last minute defeat. Yeah, that's another one we've all overlooked. That was horrific. But
watch that one live. Bloody hell.
He was unplayable that day.
I was there, mate. Whew.
Yeah, I was there.
Oh dear.
Cheers, Lionel Scaloni. Thanks for that, mate.
He's Argentinian manager now, isn't he?
Jesus.
Yeah, I think he has. I think he is.
Jesus, did not know that.
He failed upwards.
It was still Maradona.
Oh God.
Right, anything else we want to add, lads, before we say goodbye?
Oh, just praying give us any win on Saturday. The shittiest of shithouse 1-0 wins, please. Please.
I actually want to see us put a performance in, really. Like, I think that's so important.
That'd be nice as well.
Past that point, yeah.
As the group chat says, Jeff, Viva la shithouse. Like,
Viva la shithouse,
yeah. You got to respect.
Best case scenario is Souček scores off his arse in the last minute, and we all go home happy.
Yeah. Suits me.
No. What is it? Souček goes up for a header and just throws a bowl of potato salad at the ball, and then VAR disallows it because you're not allowed to bring
foreign
Potato
object.
salad to the
yeah,
football.
foreign object.
Foreign object.
Scored with some via potato salad.
Which is a
that, like,
bloody ridiculous rule, I might add.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, hold on. But because obviously Darren Bent famously scored with
That was
Yeah,
a
but,
foreign
but,
object.
but that was one where it was like it rolled on the beach. Like I'm talking like Souček brings on a bowl of potato
Oh well,
salad.
yeah, obviously,
I just
obviously
froze it at
potato
the ball.
salad is not going to make its way accidentally on the field, is it?
Slips in his sock.
And on that, and on that bombshell, gentlemen, I guess we have to do a really depressed "Come on, you Irons" and finish this now. So, come on, you potato salad.
Come on, you
Irons. Pete, yeah. That's Jeff's limited hope. 1-0 against Leicester. Please don't start Souček. Please don't start Souček.